Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name's Nathan Harvey. Good to have you in today on a Friday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How are you doing on this Friday? It was a pretty bad day, horrible weather.
Wow. Raining, terrible. The trains are shut down, the subways shut down, the highways are flooded. It's miserable. We're lucky to be here doing the Harvey Hour this evening.
Yeah, I lost power quickly, but then got it back basically.
I didn't lose it in my office. Yeah, I don't know why that happened.
That's two blips for like a short thunder, whatever the case may be, but it's like monsoon conditions out in New York right now. So, you know, we're going to obviously get through this, but, you know, it sucks having to drive through, you know, a pond every time you go outside. But you know what? It's been a while since we had a big rainstorm, so it's good to, you know, Good for the grass. Good to grow stuff. Yeah. So we do have some breaking news that broke a couple days ago. Pretty big stuff. Now, we talked about this situation a few times here on the Harvey Hour, so let's jump right into it. So Damian Lillard has gone to the Milwaukee Bucks in a blockbuster trade that also includes... Let's bring it up, why don't we now? This is the blockbuster trade. The Suns get Grayson Allen, Keon Johnson, and Nasir Little, and also Yusuf Nurkic. The Bucks get Damian Lillard, and then the Blazers get a huge bag. They get Drew Holiday. They got Toumani Camara. They got DeAndre Ayton, and then they get one first-round pick unprotected, and then 2 first-round pick swap rights if they want. So it's pretty big trade, blockbuster trade, a lot of moving pieces. The shocker, I would say, is... Dame didn't go to Miami, which is really the only destination he said he wanted to go to. And I'm going to talk about there's some interesting developments with the Damian Lillard situation. So I want to know, just straight up, what is your reaction to this trade? And do you think anyone lost in this trade situation?
Now, put it back up on the screen there. So a lot of players involved. I said originally it would take 3 teams to get it done. I thought it was 3 teams to get it done for him to wind up in Miami. But it took 3 teams to get it done to have him move to the Bucks, and I think it really changes the dynamic in the NBA Eastern Division, right? With Lillard playing with the Bucks team, which is I think pretty loaded with players, big players, right? They got
Bobby Portis,
Giannis, and Brook Lopez, yeah. So. That's a loaded team, I think. And with him added, wow, I think they're the team to be beat in the East now. This really upsets things for the Celtics and for the Heat. And I think that the Bucks will be the number 1 seed. They were last year, right? Even without Damian Lillard. Yeah. They were the number 1 seed. So I think they've kind of secured that spot. And I think they make I think it was a great move for them because it makes Giannis happy. He said that he loves being in Milwaukee, but he wants to play for a team that's going to compete for a championship every year, and they made the move to make that happen. I think, put the players back up there again. I want to So you asked me who the winners and losers were here. I think the Bucks are a big winner, right? I think the Blazers did okay. I think they'll probably trade Drew Holiday to somebody else, right?
Yeah.
I've heard that's the plan anyway. Ayton is a good player. He's somebody they're going to hang on to, right, and build around. And the picks look pretty good, right? There could be the pick swaps are with which teams? They're with the Bucks or with the Suns? I would say if they're with the Bucks, well, 28 and 30, that's ways off. So who knows how good those teams will be now?
From then,
yeah. So I don't know how good those teams will be then. Right now, pick swap with the Bucks wouldn't be worth much. They're probably going to be in the NBA Finals next year.
So
I think the Suns. It didn't look to me like they made out the best of the three, but maybe they were trying to dump Ayton's salary, right?
Could be.
Yeah, and so it's really interesting. I think it was pretty creative. I think the Bucks did a very good move, and we'll see what happens.
I'll say this. The Suns, what they got is Grayson Allen. I think he shoots like 40% from three. So they got bench scoring. That's the thing we saw in the playoffs last season, was that they had no bench outside of KD and Booker, and Chris Paul eventually went down. But outside of those three, Ayton was he didn't have that motor and that drive to succeed, it seemed. He was a very soft big man. So to get Nurkic in to replace him and then get the bench scoring, I think that's a decent win. I'd probably give them a B on that.
Yeah.
A B on that level. Portland, they're not focused on right now. They're going to move Drew Holiday off because they got a plethora of guards. Anthony Simons, they got Shaedon Sharpe, and they also drafted Scoot Henderson. So that they have a lot of guards. They don't need another guard. The big thing I hear, I think it's honestly, Ayton is a good pickup for the Blazers. Now, while he's not a physical big man that you probably need, he gives you 20 and 10, and you're happy with it. Nurkic is like a 15 and 9 guy, so you're getting some of the same production. You actually get better defense with Nurkic on the Suns, which I think the Suns would need because their scorers already are Bradley Beal, KD, and Devin Booker. You don't need a scorer at the big man. And so I think with DeAndre Ayton, he'll get his touches with Portland because they needed a big man. They needed a big man who could defend. Now, Ayton's not a great defender, but you at least get some defense. And then the picks, that's going to be years from now. I think that's where the Blazers will start to win, is down the line when you use those first round picks, which are unprotected, which is huge. You have 3 unprotected first round picks. That's where the Blazers are going to start to win that part of the trade. Right now, Milwaukee is in win now mode. I think they were already in win now mode because of Giannis's comments saying that if you don't, basically to the Bucks organization, if you don't show the same dedication to winning as I do, I'm going to be gone at the end of this season. So that's where I think getting Dame Lillard, at least for now, is a major win. But I'm going to say this. I'm going to give a round of applause to the to the Portland Blazers GM, owner, and everyone working around that trade to not stoop down just to give him away to the Heat. To show some guts and some gall, to not to just give him away because Dame might be, unhappy if he's not traded to the Heat. First of all, that was never Portland's problem if Dame was going to be unhappy with if it were to be, I don't know, the Raptors or anyone else. That's not the Blazers' problem. They're trying to get the most they can for it, and that's exactly what they did. They focused on their future, which is huge, and so I got to give a round of applause to the Blazers there. Mm-hmm. What's actually interesting about the situation, and I just saw this recently, was that the Blazers GM, Joe Cronin, he was obviously wasn't a fan when Dame only said trade me to the Heat. When that started to fall through, very recently, where the Heat were never really an option for the Blazers, Dame was actually about to be perfectly content with staying in Portland. However, the Blazers GM said, "Nope, go, you're gone. There's no salvaging this." And so he basically said, I think that's pretty shocking how even though Dame was about to be content if he didn't get his way to come back to Portland, the Blazers GM's like, "No, we're done with you. We're done with you." I think that's not on the same level because it seemed like Rodgers was a little bit, he was mad at Green Bay, but it's kind of the same thing where he wanted out, so Green Bay's like, "Okay, you want out? We're going to shove you out. Yeah. No coming back here."
Right.
So I got to hand it to the Portland Trail Blazers to not just give in to Dame's demands because guess what? I understand he's been very loyal to you, but he wanted out. He signed an extension with you. He could have been a free agent. He signed an extension with you and then decided he didn't want to play for you anymore. So I got to give props to the Trailblazers GM, owner, whoever else worked on that trade.
I agree 100%. And I think another thing that's kudos to them is Dame's really going to a place that I think you'll be happy.
Right.
And he sounds like he's not criticizing it at all. He says, I'm anxious to begin my new career here.
And if you're upset with going with Giannis and Chris Middleton and Brooke and that, I mean, that team had bad luck in the playoffs last year. They just kind of blew it. Now they have a new coach, so I think they are a championship caliber team for 100%, and they are currently NBA Finals favorites, as they should be. But I mean, yes, okay, it's not the same weather as Miami. I completely understand that. But hell,
that's for sure.
I would say right now, hands down, at this current moment, because the Heat still might get Drew Holiday if the Blazers move off him. That could still work out. But as the team is currently constructed, the Heat are not a top 8 team in the NBA. So the fact that you're going to now probably the best team in the NBA, I would say is very close if you're talking about top to bottom with Denver, because they just won the NBA title. But if you take a look at this roster with Dame, with Bobby Portis, with Brook Lopez, with Giannis, of course, with Chris Middleton if he stays healthy, I mean, this is probably the best team in the NBA. So if you're upset with going to Milwaukee, maybe because, I don't know, it's colder, I mean, give me a break. But it sounds like he's excited to play. I mean, I would. If I'm Dame Lillard and I'm going to a team that right now with me on it is going to be easily the best team in the NBA, I'd be happy because I'm probably going to finally win a championship.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Dame better not be disappointed. But I think the Blazers, the Suns, it's kind of a win now mode, but on a lesser scale because they're not obviously the same team as Milwaukee. The Bucks obviously are win now mode. They're trying to keep Giannis there for as long as possible because he's already voiced his displeasure twice now. And then the Blazers, I think this is more of a future thing. They're going to trade Drew Holiday, probably get, I don't know if you'll get a first-round pick, but you'll get a lot of assets. I would say you get a decent amount of assets back for a very good defensive point guard.
Drew Holiday is not young, though.
No, I think he's 33 years old.
Yeah, and I don't think he's going to be going to the Heat, do you? I mean, the Blazers and the Heat, there's some bad blood there now, I would think.
Well, what's very interesting...
And who would the Heat have to trade for him?
Well, that's the big thing.
I mean, they said they didn't like Hero.
Correct.
Right?
So I guarantee you they're probably not going to be like, okay, we'll take Hero now.
Who are the Heat going to get now? Who's available? I don't know what they're going to do. I think they're in a tough spot.
Well, what I found really interesting is when we talked about this, the Heat in this Dame trade were never going to give up Jimmy Butler or Bam Adebayo, but that was really their trading piece because the Blazers didn't want Tyler Hero because you don't need another guard. They already have 3 really good guards. One very promising rookie. Another I think he's 20 years old. He's showed some promise in Shaedon Sharpe. And then you have Anthony Simons, who's a good guard. So you have a really, really good guards. To add a 4th guard, a bench guard that could score, you didn't really need that. I just saw something yesterday, I believe, or the day before. The Blazers were asking for other Jimmy Butler or Bam in the trade because that makes sense. Dame is a guy who just dropped 30 points a game. You're not going to give him a bench player. You're not going to give him a guy who scores 10 points a game off the bench. No, it didn't make any sense. So that completely makes sense to me. So on the part of the Heat, this is unfortunate. On the part of Dame, I would say there's probably more than a 50% chance, easily more than a 50% chance, you'll at least be in the NBA Finals, which Dame has never gotten to. So hands down to everyone around. I think the Suns did fine. The Blazers, they're on the future. And the Bucks, I mean, you're a Celtics guy. How does this make you feel that now you're going up against a team with Damian Lillard, Giannis, and all these other pieces?
I don't think the Celtics can beat them in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Let's say the Celtics get Drew Holiday. How do you feel about that?
Well, who would they give up to get him?
You would probably need to give up a pick, and my guess would be Malcolm Brogdon's still pissed off. Now, it sounded like that I'm hearing different things, but it could have been other around how his injury was handled, that elbow injury, or it could have been, he was put up in a trade, that Marcus Smart trade, or that would have been the Marcus Smart trade, but instead he didn't pass his physical. So it's either one of those, but he's still upset at the Celtics for some situation. So could he be up on the trading block? There's rumors about him being on the trading block for Drew Holiday.
Would you consider him a good enough trade to get Drew Holiday?
He averaged 40. Yeah, I think he averaged 40 plus from 3. I mean, he just won 6th Man of the Year. So I think he should have been. I think he should be the starting point guard for the Celtics now over Derek White. But they decided not to.
The Blazers have the guards. They don't really need more guards. Right, so
you probably need to give up a big man or something like that.
Yeah, but who would that be?
That's a really good question. I wouldn't give up. He's too young, but he's also he can't stay healthy. I mean, Al Horford, I would feel like he's very up there in age.
They're not going to take him.
But that's why I would keep Robert Williams, is because he's a younger version. So
but they wouldn't take him in a trade anyway.
You would need to work it around, and maybe you would give up. I don't know. I saw Peyton Pritchard on the trading block potentially, but
they're going to look at him like they looked at Tyler Hero.
Exactly.
There's some more guards. It's got to be a forward.
Right. So that's why I think
the
I don't know
Celtics
about the
don't have a forward to give.
Right. Which is unfortunate because Drew Holiday is, you may say, a better Marcus Smart because he's that defensive point guard, but I think offensively he's better than Marcus Smart. Now maybe defensively he's not because Marcus Smart recently won Defensive Player of the Year, but he's that defensive guard who has more offense maybe than Marcus Smart does. So I don't know.
That would help the Celtics so they could get him, but I don't see that happening.
It gives them a point guard that's been a point guard, more recent than 7 years ago, like Derek White. But we'll have to wait and see. But this is a pretty big trade, and the Eastern Conference, I don't know. The Bucks may be taking over.
Yeah, what do you think the Heat are going to do? What are they going to do? They're in a tough spot now.
Yeah,
I mean, most of the trades have been made. I don't see them plucking any big player away from another team right now.
Well, we talked about not too long ago. I think Chris Mannix. I may get the reporter wrong, but we saw that he said pencil in the Heat for maybe 10th place. And that's what we're looking at. The Heat are not a great team. They were already the lowest scoring team per game last season. And that was with Gabe Vincent and all these people. I think they lost Max Strus and they lost Gabe Vincent.
And didn't they lose Duncan Robinson too?
No, I
think he still there?
I think he's still there. Oh. But still, though, you gave up your starting point guard. Kyle Lowry, he's 38 years old, 37, 38 years old. So I don't know if he'll be starting. I doubt he's starting. So we have no idea what the Heat may be. But right now, they're not a good team.
No, then maybe they have to go to Europe or someplace to pick up a player.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see just how
they lost those two players, and they haven't replaced them at all. So they're down players right now, it seems like. And I don't see what's out there for them to get.
There's not much. And they don't have much to trade if they want to go out and get somebody.
Right. So it's
they never did, which made this trade. If the Trailblazers had more than half a brain cell, which they clearly do, they pulled off a great trade. They wouldn't just bow down to the Heat just because Dame wanted to go there. That's what I was saying the entire time.
They didn't do it. They got it done with a team that is going to compete for the championship, and they made the player they gave up happy. And they got quite a bit in return. So I think they did a very good job.
People were saying send Dame to a contender like the Heat, just where they made the NBA Finals. I would say they sent him to more of a contender this year than the Heat would have been if
I think Damian Lillard should be very happy with that trade.
I would too. I go to
Except,
one of the
maybe he won't like Milwaukee as well as Miami Beach.
Yeah, Milwaukee ain't no Miami. I'll tell you that much. But hey, a pretty good trade all around, a blockbuster trade. And I gotta love some breaking news. All right, let's get into last night's game. So the Lions have won their fourth straight against the Packers last night in a 34-20 win. It was a pretty dominant game. I think out of the first half, the Lions were up 27-3. I might be wrong about that, but the Packers only had 21 yards in that first half. Absolutely abysmal on the side. But hey, a lot of good things coming from the Lions defense. Which, you know what? A lot of question marks coming into the season because of last season. They were one of the worst defenses in the league. However, the Lions have now won 3 straight primetime games under head coach Dan Campbell. So it's getting interesting in Detroit. I picked them to win the NFC North, and I feel even better about that pick today. So I want to know, what was your takeaway from this game? And, a second part to this, are the Detroit Lions, I can't believe I'm asking this, but are they really a contender for a Super Bowl?
They're looking better than I picked them also to win the division, but I was skeptical because of the past history of the Lions. They've shown, bright spots along the way, and only to recede and get back into last place and lose lots of games. So I was quite skeptical at the beginning of the year. I was also found their defense to be suspect. I mean, Aaron Glenn is still the defensive coordinator. He started out last year terribly. They had a horrible defense at the beginning of the year. It was a sieve. People running through them, passing, completing all kinds of long passes and touchdowns, and they just looked awful. And they slowly began to improve in the second half of the year. They looked a lot better, and it's carried over into this year, and they're 3-1. I mean, why they lost to Seattle is a little beyond me. That kind of gave me reason to be skeptical again, losing to that team. But, beating Green Bay, who looked to be a quality team, although I thought Jordan Love looked terrible last night. He really did not look like he was a starting quarterback caliber player last night, but he was under a lot of pressure. The defensive line of the Lions played very well. They've got that one guy there. I can't remember his name. Hutchinson?
Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, he's great. And so, I don't know. I'd say Green Bay's in trouble. Yeah. Don't you think? I mean, 34-17. They were never in the game. They're playing at home. They have a good running game. Couldn't seem to do much with that. They have a decent defense. The Lions scored 34 points on them. They just barely won last week against the Saints, right? Yeah. Pulled it out at the last second with a field goal. I don't know. It looks like it could be a long season for them.
Well, I'll say this, like Jordan Love is like a tale of two halves. The first half, he's absolutely abysmal. And we saw that 21 total yards. I mean, it looked atrocious. And then the second half, like we saw in the Saints game, he was down 17-0 in that game, and Jameis Winston couldn't get it done. But Jordan Love powered his team back, and then they were able to pull that out. They missed a late-game field goal, the Saints did. But, however, Jordan Love put him in a position to win and ultimately win that game against the Saints. But this game, it got out of hand basically immediately.
Right at the beginning. It seemed like it'd be over. It was 14-0 there right off.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I'll say
14-3.
It was 14-3 because
the Packers actually scored first, right?
Yeah, I'm about to bring this up. So Jared Goff, like a minute and a half into the game, threw a horrible interception. Yeah, like I think he was on his own 20-yard line. They ran it back to like their own to the 25. They would kick a field goal. However, Ben Johnson, the OC for the Lions, believed in Jared Goff, dialed up some plays, and immediately, boom, 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 the offense got going. And that's a big credit to Ben Johnson, because Ben Johnson, the Lions almost lost him in this offseason because he interviewed for a couple jobs. He interviewed for the Texans and the Colts job, and actually had a meeting scheduled for the Panthers before deciding to come back to Detroit. So the fact that the Lions brought him back and Ben Johnson, stayed with the Lions, huge credit to him and huge credit to the Lions for getting that done, because I would say that Ben Johnson is a huge cog to Jared Goff's success. I mean, this season and last season, at least so far this season, Jared Goff's looked good. He's looked really good. And it's really crazy how, at the end of his Rams tenure, that's basically how the trade with Matt Stafford was conducted, was sort of a contract dump. Just get off him. And now it seems like potentially, I understand that, the Rams won a Super Bowl, but as of right now, Jared Goff is still playing great, and Matthew Stafford, we're concerned about potentially a lingering elbow injury, connection with this. There's a lot of question marks from the Rams. Now, ultimately, you could say that the Rams won that because they got a Super Bowl out of it, but right now, currently, I would say the Lions doing pretty damn well. But my takeaway was, like you said, Jordan Love looked horrible. Now, could this be that the Lions defense is actually all of a sudden really, really good? That very well could be the case, because guess what? Aiden Hutchinson, he has, I think, he had 8 pressures in this game. He's the only other defensive lineman or defensive player to get 7+ pressures in 2 games so far this season. So he is going off this year. And like we said with John on Tuesday, he's probably going for an All-Pro this year. The way he's been playing, he's an absolutely dominant force. And I would say the Jaguars are looking at their first overall pick. Was it Travon Walker? And he's like, we probably should have drafted Aiden Hutchinson, and unfortunately they didn't. But he's going absolutely off. The line, like I mentioned it earlier, but let's compare. The first half. So the Lions had nearly 300 yards, 284 yards of offense. The Packers only had 21 yards of offense.
Terrible.
And that's absolutely insane, the fact that we're talking about an NFL quarterback in Jordan Love who actually didn't look half bad and just had a great comeback the prior week to come out here and do an absolute, like this performance, an absolute dud. He also threw 2 pretty bad interceptions. He did have a pretty nice throw late in the game. However, the Packers didn't look that great. Jordan Love didn't look that great. And, got to give a lot of credit to the Lions here. Defense was great. Brian Branch, the safety from Alabama, he got shaken up on a couple plays. I don't know how he'll be next week. It looked pretty bad. He had to come out twice. However, all the way down the field, their defense. Their first-round pick was Jack Campbell. The linebackers look pretty good this season. Brian Branch has looked good. Aiden Hutchinson, for a first-round pick, a couple years ago. He's looked great, obviously. The offensive line, it's still great. Penei Sewell, I believe he hasn't allowed a pressure yet all season. He may have allowed one, but he's doing a phenomenal job. And David Montgomery, I mean, at least, a lot of people who have played fantasy, I'm sure, have drafted David Montgomery. The amount of inconsistencies he's had throughout fantasy, at least, to come out here and do a great job. What he run for? I have the number here.
Over 100.
Yeah, 32 carries. You don't really see that anymore in the NFL. 32 carries for 121 yards and 3 touchdowns. Also, Jahmyr Gibbs, the at least at the time, the questionable 12th overall pick in this past year's draft, he had 8 carries for 40 yards, 5 yards a carry. He's an explosive back. We saw it even in the first game. He had some of the most explosive runs against the Chiefs in Week 1 on Thursday night. So, all around, applause for Dan Campbell. Now, unfortunately, if the Dolphins continue sort of with this trend of being great offensively, my head coach of the year being Dan Campbell probably won't happen because Mike McDaniel will probably get it. However, what Dan Campbell's doing with Detroit, building that culture, with Jared Goff sort of having a resurgence of his career, good things are happening in Detroit. And we haven't seen a lot of good things come out of Detroit in probably near a decade. The last time they made the playoffs, I think it was 2016. So,
yeah.
And the last time they won the division, if I'm not mistaken, was 30 years ago.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I mean,
30 years ago, just to win the division. Yeah.
I wasn't even alive at the time.
Yeah, right.
So,
yeah.
That was Barry Sanders back then.
Yeah, right. So, I thought that Goff played very well. He hadn't thrown an interception in over 200 pass attempts until that first interception there last night. I think
he had one last week.
No, I thought
against the Seahawks. He had one.
Are you sure?
Positive. Yeah.
I thought that they said he hadn't thrown an interception for.
If they said that in the broadcast, they were wrong.
Yeah, okay.
They were wrong.
Yeah, I thought. Well, maybe I misheard it, but he hadn't. He's done very well and done very well in terms of passes without interceptions. Last year, the second half of the year, he was no interceptions for a long stretch there. And now if he had one in Seattle, and he's had a couple now the past couple of games. I noticed that the offensive coordinator, after that happened, had several running plays after that before they got him back passing again. And then when he did, he kind of settled in, and he was throwing the ball very well. So I think he's a quality quarterback. You have him in your top 10?
I had him at number 9.
Number 9, yeah. So I think that's right. I think he is a top 10 quarterback, and you got to have that if you're going to be a contender for the playoffs in the NFL this year, I think.
Yeah, no. Speaking of my top 10 quarterbacks, that's coming back Tuesday because we're heading into Week 5. So Tuesday we got new Nate's Notches. That's my team tier ranking system, and a new top 10 quarterback list. There's a lot of movement in my top 10 quarterback list. A lot of quarterbacks dropping, a few quarterbacks moving up. I don't know. There's gonna be a lot of questions, but based on what we've seen, I think it's gonna be a pretty good list. So that's to look out for on Tuesday. But let's continue with the show here. Let's talk about our next topic here. So we're talking about Zach Wilson again with the New York Jets. So Hall of Fame quarterback and former Jet quarterback Joe Montana. Or it's not Joe Namath. Joe Montana. Joe Namath, Hollywood Joe, had some shocking comments on whether or not the Jets should keep Zach Wilson and what he thought of that game last week against the New England Patriots.
You know what? No, I didn't take anything positive out of it yesterday. It was awful. Why? Yeah. Were you watching? Is anyone watching? You sit down on the play, you go right down. What happens? I thought you're trying to win and make plays. You quit on a play? What is going on? It's disgusting.
And the play that, Namath is specifically talking about is this one, where Zach Wilson spins into sacking himself. So that was the play he was talking about, is the fact that he spun out, did some sort of weird spin move, ended up taking a sack based on himself, spinning into his own sack. So I don't know, do you think Joe Namath is being a little bit too harsh on the former second overall pick?
Yeah, I do. I think he is being a little bit too hard on him. I mean, Zach Wilson, he went into the season thinking, I'm not going to play a play. I'm just going to hold a clipboard and watch the game and do whatever the coaches assigned to me to keep stats or something. And suddenly he's the starting quarterback, and Aaron Rodgers is out for the full year. The offense was designed and built around Aaron Rodgers play, and they brought in Nathaniel Hackett, who was his former OC. And so, it's not Zach Wilson's offense. It's a very different offense from what he's used to, and he never got very many reps in it. So he's going to have a little bit of a tough time. Plus, he's going up against the Patriots defense last week, who he's never had any success with. He's been beaten by the Patriots 5 times now and never won a game against them. So it was very tough, and I do think that the Jets made a mistake by not having another quarterback that they could have substituted for having Zach Wilson in there, because I think Joe Namath, in terms of seeing enough, if they're paying the Chiefs this week, right? If they get blown out by the Chiefs, and it's all. I mean, I thought there'd be panic after the Patriots. There is a little bit. You hear people like Joe Namath saying, "Jettison him," no pun intended, and if they get blown out again, if they get blown out this week, then I think that talk's just going to increase, and they'll have to bring up Trevor Siemian, who I don't think will be much better, actually.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. I don't think he's being that harsh, because he is literally, we talk about, the conversation always goes on about who's the biggest bust in this sport, who's the biggest bust in that sport. Well, let's take a look at a comparison with Jamarcus Russell, one of the biggest first overall pick busts of NFL history. Ryan Leaf is also up there.
He's wearing number 2 as well.
But they are basically the same quarterback. They are both horrible. Absolutely terrible. Now, what's interesting is that we've already seen this story back against the Patriots. The turmoil has already begun. We showed this on Tuesday. The turmoil has already begun. Garrett Wilson, star receiver, former offensive rookie of the year, yelling at Zach Wilson. You got the third string running back yelling at his position coach because the offense can't even get going. So the turmoil has already begun. And not only that, you always hear about, but the pressure. Zach Wilson's always under pressure. The offensive line is terrible. Now, while, yes, he is under pressure, however, what happens when the pocket is clear, when the defense has no pass rush wins? He's still abysmal. Last in QBR, last in yards per dropback, last in 29th out of 34 in completion percentage. He's still an abysmal quarterback.
Quarterback rating, 7.6.
7.6. That's a scale of 0 to 100. You got a 7.6.
Terrible.
So, no, I don't think that Joe Namath is being too tough, because Zach Wilson is actually terrible. Like, he is not an NFL quarterback. We talk. Here's the thing. I feel like we're a little bit too nice about Justin Fields, right? Because we understand the Jets or the Bears, they're just a horrible team through and through. With the Jets, though, why is Robert Saleh is putting confidence into a guy that's going to make him lose his head coaching job? Like, if he keeps Zach Wilson starting as their quarterback and he keeps going along this route, Robert Saleh will not be the head coach of the Jets next year. And there's a decent shot that Joe Douglas, the GM, who's made a couple nice moves here with Garrett Wilson and a bunch of these draft picks, especially on the defensive side, he's going to be probably out of a job too. So the fact that, Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas still believe in this quarterback, and especially Robert Saleh throwing unearned confidence into a kid, I mean, I would say that he's literally coaching himself out of a job. Now, we bring up, why didn't the Jets sign a veteran quarterback or look to trade or whatever the case may be? Well, it's interesting. So Josina Anderson reported today, actually, that the reason the Jets aren't currently adding a more highly regarded quarterback is because they have budget concerns after going all in on Aaron Rodgers. They spent the second most cash. They spent the second most cash, $280 million this season, and feel that other teams don't usually trade away quality players easily. Well, I think the Titans are almost going to get off of Ryan Tannehill. And Ryan Tannehill, if we actually take a look at it, look at the team situation, when they were the number 1 seed of the AFC a couple years ago, what did they have? A not great offensive line, a defensive head coach, an underrated to good, underrated but a really good defense, a running threat, and one really good wide receiver. What do the Jets have this season? A good running attack, a defensive head coach, 1 star receiver, a poor offensive line, and an essentially underrated and good defense. So if you bring Ryan Tannehill over here, and by the way, Ryan Tannehill was also in a number of high stakes games. He was in Brady's last game as a Patriot. He beat Brady, and now I guarantee you that was more Derrick Henry, but he was still in that game. He didn't throw that game away. He was the number 1 seed. He led the Titans to a higher seeding than the Chiefs and the Bengals and the Ravens and all these other teams. So the fact that Ryan Tannehill is not a bad option, I would say Jameis Winston also isn't a bad option. And there's a chance if you want to go a little bit on the higher stakes option, look at Kirk Cousins. This is his last year of his contract. It looks like the Vikings are probably going to get it off him at the end of this season anyway. So you don't really have same thing with Ryan Tannehill. He's on a contract year too. You don't have that conflict of keeping him when Rodgers comes back.
Mm-hmm. So I thought you were looking for somebody mid-season here, before the trade deadline.
You need to get.
You can't get Kirk Cousins. He's not going to be traded.
You might. Hey, same. I mean, there's a chance.
I don't know. I mean, they're 0-3 right now. They're 0-3, right? If they're 0-7, maybe they would consider trading him in mid-season.
If they're 0-7, things are very wrong because Kirk Cousins is on pace for 6,000 yards and 51 touchdowns. So. If they're 0-7, they got bigger problems than Kirk Cousins.
They got to stop turning over the ball. That's been their problem.
Turnovers is an issue, but the Jets are in a dire situation. I mean, the fact, once again, I'll repeat it. Robert Saleh having confidence in Zach Wilson to be their quarterback moving forward when they had Aaron Rodgers, but to keep him. They already benched him twice. If they were to do any move that includes benching, that includes trading, that includes getting another quarterback, they can never bring Zach Wilson back. They can never put Zach Wilson in the starting lineup unless that quarterback gets hurt. But they can't, if let's say if they put in Trevor Siemian or they put in Tim Boyle or if they go out and get a quarterback, unless they get hurt, Zach Wilson can never come back in. They already benched him twice. There's a reason you benched Zach Wilson twice. There's a reason you went out and got Rodgers. There's literally zero reason to say, yeah, this kid is our unquestioned quarterback moving forward. He's terrible. He's absolutely terrible. And I guarantee you, every single 3rd and out or 4th and out, whatever, every time Zach Wilson brings out the punt team, you're going to hear boos on, was it Monday or Sunday night? You're going to hear that crowd booing. Because Zach Wilson is terrible. Everybody knows that Zach Wilson is terrible. Now that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are dating, though those tickets are skyrocketing, you're spending, based on a report, 43% more on tickets for this game, and you're going to see Zach Wilson throw duds. I mean, unless you're a Chiefs fan, you're going to see Mahomes sling the ball around. No one's really going to sign up to go see Zach Wilson be the worst quarterback in the NFL. Yeah. So.
Well, may be right. You may be right, but I'm not sure what they can do about it. It doesn't look like they can do much about it. I don't see the Saints wouldn't trade Jameis Winston. They need him.
But right now
he's starting right now, and he's a quality backup. So, Derek Carr got hurt, so now Winston is in there. They're still picking him to win this week. So I don't see them trading him.
I mean,
how about
you got to make a move?
How about some of the quarterbacks that are on the bench that never made a team this year?
Trey Lance?
No, he's with the Cowboys.
Are you talking about what, on free agency?
Yeah, free agency.
Matt Ryan's agent.
Matt Ryan was interested.
Well, Matt Ryan's agent called the Jets, and the Jets turned him down. Carson Wentz contacted the Jets. He got turned down as well.
I don't know why Carson Wentz wouldn't be given a look. If he looking at Trevor Siemian,
the Jets are delusional. They're still thinking Zach Wilson's their guy.
Yeah, well, that's because they drafted him number 1, and they can't get beyond that. He was the number 2 pick in the draft.
Sometimes your first option, sometimes that first, whether it's a relationship or a quarterback, isn't all, happiness and rainbows. Sometimes you just gotta be like, I'm done. This didn't really work.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, a little bit of a spoiler for the next topic after the break, Justin Fields may be gone much sooner than what people were actually thinking, or he may be gone and people are shocked by that idea. Because, this GM, he didn't draft Justin Fields, so we could be seeing some changes. But the Jets are shooting themselves in the foot, and, there is no light at the end of the tunnel here for the Jets, and Robert Saleh is coaching himself out of his head coaching job. So, unfortunate situation. However, you know what? It's the Jets. They never have luck with quarterbacks, and that's just that's just the
unluckiest franchise I've ever seen, I must say.
They have not been able to get the quarterback right, really, ever. Probably since Joe Namath was their quarterback. That was the last time. Wow. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad through and through. But let's go to a quick break here. So in a world where online privacy matters more than ever, NordVPN has your back. With its military-grade encryption and lightning-fast servers, you could surf, shop, and stream without a worry. But it's not just about privacy. It's also about freedom. NordVPN allows you to connect to any one of their 5,000-plus servers across 60 countries. Whether you're a worldwide traveler, a content creator, or just someone who values their digital space, NordVPN is a must tool to have in your online arsenal. And guess what? NordVPN is offering an exclusive deal that provides you with top-of-the-line online safety and security for 68% off. That's $3.19 a month, which is what? A little bit over 10 cents a day. So why wait? Don't compromise your online safety and freedom. Join the millions of people, including myself, who trust NordVPN and experience the internet the way it's meant to be, safe and open. Also, coming up, futures hang in the balance as Justin Fields and the Bears go up against Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos, who will come out on top with either their first win of the season or go down to 0-4. Also, we make our Week 4 predictions and who wins and who loses. And also, I'm hopefully going to continue my great Harvey hot hand streak, which comes up right after the break.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast. Your food podcast. Your mindfulness podcast. Your never thought you'd get this far podcast. And watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the comment.
Drop the episode anywhere people listen. And find out who they're cooking with. Where they're finding inner balance. And why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name's Nathan Harvey, and as always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Good to have you in on a Friday evening. Let's get into our next topic here. So, the Denver Broncos, Russell Wilson, heading into Chicago to play the winless Bears. Both teams are 0-3 on the year and also have had a rough season with the Broncos coming off of a 50-point loss to the Dolphins and also gave up 70 points in the process. And the Bears just came from a game where the Chiefs dominated them with a 41-10 win over these Bears. So I want to know, based on what you've seen this season and the situation surrounding either team, is this a bigger game for the Bears or the Broncos?
This is a battle of the hapless teams. The two worst teams in the NFL. The Bears, who have Justin Fields, who many thought was going to be the MVP this year. He'll be lucky if he doesn't get cut by the middle of the season. And the Broncos, who brought in Sean Payton. He and Russell Wilson going to get together and be like Drew Brees and Sean Payton. Touchdowns right and left, super duper offense. Hey, they only lost by 50 last week, huh? 70-20. Get out of here. I mean, that is embarrassing, huh? I mean, that team gave up on Sean Payton. They weren't playing for him, and I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with him dissing Russell Wilson, criticizing Nathaniel Hackett, just making a lot of noise unnecessarily that he should have kept quiet or at least talk to behind the scenes to his team and his coaches about, instead of putting that stuff out in public. I think it's hurt him, and I think he's probably wondering, what the hell did I do here? Why did I take this job? Because it looks really bad. I don't see either team is going to fight it out here. To maybe they'll wind up in a tie, Nate, on this game. Could be a tie. I don't know. I would give the advantage here just marginally to the Broncos. I got to believe if they've got anything, that embarrassment last week is going to bring them out, and they're going to play hard. And their defense, I thought, was generally pretty good. Last year it was a good defense. I don't know what happened, how they managed to ruin it so badly that they give up 70 points in one game and 726 yards, NFL record. So I don't know. It looks to me like it's going to be close with the two worst teams in the NFL fighting it out. I'm giving the Broncos a little bit of an edge just because the Bears don't seem to have a coach that knows anything about what he's doing. and a quarterback who is lost out there.
So
that's my view.
Would you say this game matters more to the Broncos or the Bears? If you talk about, like potential firings or whatever the case may be.
I'd say it probably means more to the Broncos,
and
actually.
I would agree with you. Simply because the Broncos are the better team, should be considered the better team, and they're rightfully 3-point favorites on the road because they are the better team than the Chicago Bears. When we look at the Bears we all know the Bears are right now terrible. They have probably the worst defense. They have a horrible offensive line. Hell, they even have a horrible quarterback. And it's not for a lack of weapons. I mean, you're going to call Cole Kmet a bad weapon. You're going to call DJ Moore a bad weapon. I mean, that asset could be really used back in Carolina. Bryce Young could use a DJ Moore. He's a 1,000-yard receiver. A lot of teams could use a DJ Moore, and Justin Fields has not used really any sort of his new acquisitions or any of his pieces, with any sort of poise or any respect, I would say so. So this is definitely a bigger game for the Broncos because I really think if the Bears somehow, some way, this game is a complete tire fire. And I love tire fires. Great storylines. A lot of, what ifs and could be's coming out of tire fires. But in this case, if the Bears somehow pull out a win against these Denver Broncos, there's going to be some, I really think there's going to be some major moves. Could be potentially just, shooting out there. Head coaching change, maybe. You might see, a quarterback change. You might see Jarrett Stidham in there for a few games. You might see people get fired if somehow the Chicago Bears, led by Justin Fields, beats, the Denver Broncos with Sean Payton, the Hall of Fame head coach, and Russell Wilson, who's won a Super Bowl, who has looked great until he got to Denver. Now, I'll also say this, which is interesting. We talked about it I think it was last week, where Justin Fields said, F it, I'm going to play my game out there, because he was having trouble processing a bunch of different coaches' voices and their critiques on his game and how to develop. So this was him basically, he told the media and told everyone that he's not going to be confined to what that the coaches were going to be telling him. He's just going to let it rip and let it free. He did a worse job this week letting it rip and playing his game than he did in the first 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks he threw for over 200 yards. This game he threw for under 100 yards. So to say that Justin Fields needs to play his game and let it rip, he plays worse when he plays his game and lets it rip than he does when he's getting coached. And apparently he was thinking too much. He played better when he was thinking too much than when he said he's not going to think at all and just play football. He played worse. So if somehow, some way, the Bears pull out this win, drastic changes are going to come to Denver. I can't see this team go from a 70-point loss or a 50-point loss and give up 70 points. I think they're averaging 40 points a game given up, at least defensively.
Terrible.
You can't go from a 50-point loss and give up 70 points to lose to the Bears, and then the next week you have the same exact lineup in the same exact way with the same coaches, same quarterback, or whatever the case may be. Something has to change if the Broncos lose. The Bears, we all know they're terrible, so if they come out and lose this game, it is what it is. They lost. They're a bad team.
Yeah.
The Broncos actually have like a Jerry Jeudy and a Cortland Sutton and a Javonte Williams. I'm not gonna say a great off. It's not good, but it's not abysmal. There are a few. There's a decent amount of offensive lines that are worse. And you have what a lot of people thought was a Hall of Fame quarterback in Russell Wilson, and you have a Hall of Fame head coach. You should win this game.
Yeah.
And you're only 3-point favorites because of the fact that you're absolutely terrible. Russell Wilson has been terrible, in the second half of this season, was bad last season. And with Sean Payton, you're doing a worse job than Nathaniel Hackett, who Sean Payton called the worst coaching job in NFL history.
Yeah, and right now, Nathaniel Hackett had a better record 4 games in. He was 2-1.
Yeah.
And Sean Payton can't win a game.
Can't win a single game.
Yeah. I got to say one other thing about the Bears and Justin Fields. I do feel sorry for Justin Fields.
Why?
Because he came out and he was frustrated and he said, there's too much information in my head. It could be on the coaches.
Yeah.
But then he backtracked and said, something, blame it all on me. It's all my fault.
Right.
This is
which is what he should do.
I'll take full responsibility. If there's a problem, don't lay it on anybody else but me.
Right.
So I feel bad that this past week they had to play the Chiefs, and which is a team that was going to beat them anyway, no matter what, right? And he said that I need to play free. I need to be not having all this info in my head. I'm going to go out and play my game. Well, he did. He went out and they lost 41-10.
And not only that, he looked significantly worse.
10 points.
He looked worse when he played his game than he did.
Yeah.
Like I said, he threw for over 200 yards the first 2 weeks when he was thinking too much and too much information in his head and taking, light years to throw the ball. Now he threw for under 100 yards. You go from 200 plus to under 100 when you play your game.
Yeah.
So you're a worse quarterback when you play your own type of game. Yeah. So that proves you need coaching, you need development, and you don't need to play your own game.
Yeah.
So I don't feel bad because, he took a shot at the coaches and said, he's going to F it and play his own game. He looked worse.
Yeah.
So that sort of proves the fact that it ain't coaching. It's on Justin Fields. Justin Fields is the problem on that offensive side.
Yeah, well, that will be an interesting game. I'm sure not that many people will be watching. It's certainly not going to be on prime time.
I think it's a 1:00 game if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. But hey, who doesn't like to watch tire fires? I mean, this is basically comedy. This game is going to be comedy. Bad team versus worst team. Who's going to come out on top?
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm going to be watching very intently because I think there's some serious ramifications that could come out of this game. We could be seeing a lot of changes.
Yeah, well, if the Bears wind up scoring 70 points against the Broncos, then that will be the end of everybody there, I think, right? They'll just bring up the practice squad and let everybody else go.
Yeah. That's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah.
But, I'll be, keeping a close eye on what that situation is. All right, let's get into the weekly topic where we make our weekly picks. So we're going to make our week 4 picks. I will, of course, start as I always do with my first set of picks. So last night, we talked about it earlier, Lions came out on top pretty big, took a commanding 3-1 record, took over the NFC North and beat the Packers 34-20. Great win for Jared Goff, great win for the Detroit Lions. Let's go into the next one. So Falcons and Jaguars in London. Right now, I believe the favorites in London are 21-9, have a 21-9 record. So I'm going to give it to the Jaguars here. They've actually played pretty poorly, and Trevor Lawrence has not looked great. Red zone has been absolutely abysmal this season. The offensive line has not really held up very well. However, they're playing against a Falcons team which is like bottom 5, bottom 6 on at least most offensive categories. So I'll take the Jaguars to come out here, sort of get the ball rolling. They've started now off slowly 2 years in a row now. So I think this is where they sort of kickstart and get moving to hopefully what I'm saying is a successful season. Let's go into the next one. Dolphins at Bills. Bills are favored by 2.5 in this game. A lot of people, basically everybody is picking the Bills because I think the Dolphins have only won one game. At least Tua has won one game against these Buffalo Bills. But I'm believing in this offense until I see otherwise. I'm believing that regardless of the defense, I understand the defense is not great, but it is improving. And Josh Allen just came off of a great 34-point win against the Commanders. I'm taking the Dolphins in this high-flying offense that's averaging like 40 points a game and I think they're having over 500 yards of offense a game. I'm taking them to win. This might be like a 42 to like 35 game, or 38 game. This is going to be a high-scoring game. I'll take the Dolphins for the upset. Unless I see otherwise, I'm believing in Mike McDaniel and Tua and this offense. The next one, Vikings at Panthers. Bryce Young is expected to come back here. However, I don't think that'll be enough. I do think the Vikings will get their first win of the season here. They are just a better team, hands down, all around. However you look at it, they are the better team. Now, their defense may not be as good. Offensively, though, they have the best receiver in the league. Alexander Madison is not a half-bad back, and Kirk Cousins is the better quarterback. So I'll take the better offense. And, really overall the better team. I say the better coach as well. I'll take the Vikings to win and cover the -4 point spread. Ravens at Browns, -2.5 in favor of the Browns. Now, Deshaun Watson just got put on the injury report as questionable with a shoulder issue that he hurt in practice. However, I'm still taking the Browns here because regardless if it's Deshaun Watson or if it's DTR, I'm going to take the Browns here just because that defense is super, super dynamic and super dominant. Now, what's big is that Rashad Bateman and Odell Beckham, I would say the first two starting receivers of the Ravens, they're both out. You also have Marlon Humphrey, who is out. You also have two linebackers for the Ravens that are out. Ronnie Stanley's doubtful, so he'll probably not go. You have a lot of injuries on the Ravens side. Now, we took a look at the Colts and how that affected the Ravens. They lost to the Colts in overtime. So I'll take the Browns with that dominant defense, and I think regardless of the quarterback situation, at least in this game, DTR looked great in the preseason, and a lot of people say take the preseason with a grain of salt. Well, what we saw in the preseason with the Browns Browns is they can run the ball effectively. Their defense is pretty good, and DTR looked great. So far, they hit on 2 of those points. So if DTR plays, I'm saying the Browns could probably go 3 for 3, and I would say DTR, takes off and actually pulls out this win if he does play. The next one, Broncos, Bears. We talked about this in the prior topic. The Broncos need to win this game. They are the better team through and through defensively. Their defense is still horrible, but they do have the better defense. They have the better offense. They have the better quarterback. They have the better head coach. They have the better basically everything. If they don't win this game, there's going to be a lot of moves, I think, in Denver. So I would take the Broncos just based on the principle of they need this game more than the Bears do. I'll take the Broncos to win and cover the -3 point spread on the road. The next one, Steelers at Texans. I actually don't love this pick. That's why I didn't pick it for my Harvey hot hand. Spoiler alert. However, I think the Steelers with their defense actually will dominate this game. CJ Stroud, I picked him to be the first overall pick in this draft. I thought he'd be the better quarterback compared to Bryce Hall. And so far, that's actually coming out to be true. But even though CJ Stroud has looked great so far, I just think Kenny Pickett and this offense will get the ball rolling a little bit. They did against a very, very vicious Raiders defense. We saw what that game was. Super, super physical. I think TJ Watt flies off that offensive line with, I think Laramie Tunsil's out for this game. That's a big loss for the Texans. I'll take the Steelers to win and cover the -2.5 point spread. This one's a shocker for me because the Rams are road underdogs against the Indianapolis Colts. I think we're overhyping the Colts just a little bit. I think this Rams team is better. At least I gave up on them just based on one comment by Matthew Stafford's wife. However, I think I should backtrack that now and stick to my original plan because guess what? They're sort of proving me right if I just stuck with my word, but I didn't. So I guess that's on me. Was it Puka Nacua? He's been great so far this season. Tutu Atwell's been efficient. You got Cooper Kupp maybe coming back in a week or two. However, I think this running game will be the huge factor in this game. I think the Rams will run the ball very, very well. I think Matthew Stafford comes out with a late game big play to seal this win here. But I'll take the Rams as road underdogs. I think they're a better team. I'll take them to beat the Indianapolis Colts and cover the +2.5 point spread. Let's go to the next one. That's +1.5. The next one, Bucks at Saints. With Jameis Winston instead of Derek Carr starting as quarterback, they're still favorites. That's what shocks me. I think Baker Mayfield and this team, I think they're going to take over this game. Now, the Saints and the Bucks, the Saints have actually dominated. And yes, the Bucks had Tom Brady. The Saints still took care of business and have taken care of business for a number of years now. But I think Baker Mayfield with this offense, it's been working. I hate to break it to people. Yes, they played the Eagles. The Eagles probably have the best team, or at least in the NFC. They have a top 3 team in the NFC. Jalen Hurts is obviously the better quarterback between him and Baker. The offensive line is probably the number 1 offensive line in the NFL. They have that tush push, which a lot of people are saying should get outlawed. I think there's some debate. I'm sure we'll talk about it eventually on the show. But I think the Bucs will bounce back here, and I think Baker will have a great game throwing to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, handing the ball off to Rashad White. I think this team will take care of business and beat the Saints with Jameis Winston starting at quarterback for the Saints. Next one, Commanders at Eagles. Eagles are just the better team through and through. We saw what Sam Howell looked like against the Bills defense. I think he had 4 interceptions. He looked horrible. I think they only put up 3 points in that game. The Eagles are a phenomenal team. DeAndre Swift, what a pickup he was. What a trade asset he was, dominating in the run game. I think the Eagles will take over here. I think it's going to be a breeze. I think the Commanders may score maybe 10 points, and that might be pushing. I'll take the Eagles to win and easily cruise to an over 9-point victory over the Commanders. The next one, I got the Bengals beating the Titans. Now this one's interesting because Mike Vrabel, being road home underdogs, he's been great. He's been absolutely phenomenal as a home underdog. However, I still think Joe Burrow and this Bengals team will get something going. I think they will get something going. Now, I don't know what it is, but Joe Burrow, his injury is healing. That's at least a positive here. I think really the Bengals are going to be great on offense. I think this Titans defense is just slightly overrated, and I really think Ryan Tannehill is not a great quarterback. I just don't think this offense will be much against a pretty decent Bengals defense. I'm calling them decent. They're not all that great. However, without, Joe Burrow being terrible, I think they could have won a number of games here. They could have gone 3-0 if Joe Burrow didn't get hurt. Just throwing that out there. But I think the Bengals will win and cover the -2.5 point spread. Next one, Raiders at Chargers. This was originally 6.5, this point spread. It dropped all the way down to -5. So clearly, a couple bettors are thinking that the Raiders may be able to pull this off. I don't. Justin Herbert is yet to throw an interception in this game. He's one of, I think, 3 quarterbacks not to have an interception on the year. This offense is absolutely phenomenal. And Jimmy G is still in concussion protocol, so we may see Brian Hoyer starting at quarterback. And I think this is where the defense takes over. The defense has been absolutely abysmal so far this season, but I think this game, the defense will do something against Brian Hoyer at quarterback. I'll take the Chargers to win pretty handily and cover the -5 point spread. Next one, Patriots at Cowboys. Cowboys coming off of a very, very embarrassing loss, a crippling loss against the Arizona Cardinals and Josh Dobbs. I would say the Patriots can't get it done here. Their offensive line, while, yes, it is slowly healing, it still isn't very good. And against the defense, like with Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence, you can't really do much. And you also have Stephon Gilmore taking away. On most winning teams would be a wide receiver 2, probably a wide receiver 3 that the Patriots have as their wide receiver 1s. Makes no sense. Juju has been horrible so far. He's looked slow. He's looked lost. He's not on the same page as Mac Jones. Devontae Parker has dealt with injuries throughout his career, at least with the Patriots. And while he should be healthy this week, I don't trust the Patriots receiver core. The offensive line is abysmal. The defense has been interesting. This is going to be a low-scoring game, but I do think the Cowboys will pull off at least a touchdown victory over the New England Patriots. Now, while the Cardinals did just rock people's worlds and defeat the Dallas Cowboys, they will keep it not that close. But because the point spread is -14 for the San Francisco 49ers, I'm going to say the Cardinals at least cover, but the 49ers do end up winning this game. I think this could be like a 27-13 game, something like that, 27-14. I do think the Cardinals will cover this point spread. However, this 49ers team is probably the second or third best team in the entire NFL. The defense is dominant. Brock Purdy looks efficient, and their playmakers are really what the show is offensively. You got CMC, you got Debo, you got George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk should be back this week. You got Jennings. You have all these playmakers so that Brock Purdy, all he needs to do is throw a 5-yard pass to any one of them, and they can run up for a 65-yard touchdown. That's how great this 49ers, the supporting cast is. So I'll take them to win this game, but I think the Cardinals, at least, they keep it somewhat interesting, if you can call a 13-point loss interesting. Josh Dobbs has looked great, and hey, the Cardinals may actually keep it closer than 13 points because they have been in every single game. Me and my dad both thought that we're just going to bow down and just let the Cardinals be that first overall pick and go out and get Caleb Williams. They have fought in every single one of these games, and if I'm not mistaken, if I saw it correctly, they have held a halftime lead in every single game so far of the season, which is absolutely insane. So I'll take the 49ers to win. However, the Cardinals do cover the points spread. Next one, Chiefs at Jets, Sunday Night Football. The Chiefs are just a better team. I mean, that is the completely obvious statement here. But the Jets have probably the worst quarterback in the NFL. Their offensive line is not that great. The defense is, shockingly okay to good, but it's not this. I would not call them a top 5 defense in the NFL. The Chiefs' defense, though, I think is the story of this season. It's not the offense. The offense, yes, well, it did just put up 41 points. It was against the Chicago Bears. This defense, through the first at least 2 weeks of the season, have been absolutely locked down and shutting down teams. That's the story here. So I think the defense will put the Chiefs in great positions to score. I think the Chiefs win it easily and cover that 8.5 point spread. And what I thought was shocking, at least earlier in the week, the Giants were favored by as much as 2.5 earlier in this week. However, the point spread has flipped all around to put in the Seahawks to -1, and I love that. I love them being underdogs. I like them still being the 1-point favorite, and I'm shocked it's only 1-point favorites against the Giants. The offensive line is a complete mess. The offensive line is still, bringing guys off the street, picking apart pieces to figure out who works in the offensive line. Daniel Jones does not look great. The weapons that I was told are going to change the Giants, put them to 10+ wins, and have them make the playoffs again, hasn't really turned out to be the case. Darren Waller's not the great guy you heard about in training camp and in practice just because the offensive line's not great. Saquon Barkley doesn't have the same juice. Hell, he's still trying to deal with an injury, trying to come back. So, and the defense also has not been anywhere near as good as it was last season. So I think the Seahawks pull out a win here with JSN, with DK Metcalf, with Tyler Lockett, Geno Smith being as accurate as he could be. And I think the Seahawks defense will get 1 or 2 interceptions because recently Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes, he's not been so great. He's been more like Danny Drops. So that is my pick. The Seahawks win and cover the -1 point spread. Those are my picks for this week. Whew.
Wow. Good. A lot of information there, Nate.
Yeah, I tried my best.
I think you made some good picks there.
Thank you.
Most of them I agree with, but as you'll see on my picks, we disagree on a couple of them.
Let's go.
So just looking at my record so far, 27-21. I'm doing much better this year on this point spread, 28-17-3.
If I'm not saying you're beating me. Yeah, you're beating me in the point spread.
Yeah.
Which is shocking because my Harvey Hot hand is doing so great.
Yeah. So, I'm not beating you on the one-loss record because I have a soft spot in my heart for the Patriots. So, but this week, getting right into my picks, I was happy to win last night with the Lions. I wasn't so sure about that. I thought the Green Bay would play a lot better at home, but they didn't. And the Lions won, and the Lions look to be for real. Looking at the London game, I think this will be a very close game. For whatever reason, the Jaguars are not playing as well this year as they did the second half of last year. Maybe it's the same kind of scenario playing out this year as it did last year. They start out lousy and they finish strong. I don't know, but they, as you mentioned, their quarterback is not playing as well as he had last year, and the Falcons have that great running game, right, with Bijan Robinson. I think this game will be very close. I do think that the Jaguars will pull it out. The Dolphins and the Bills, I don't think the Dolphins are going to score 70 this week against the Bills. The Bills have looked very good since their first game against the Jets, and Josh Allen throwing all those interceptions and fumbling the ball. He's played much better. And they do have a very strong defense. Running game, I'm not quite so sure about that. The Dolphins' offense is elite. Nobody's going to catch them now with all the points they put up so far this year and all those yards. I think they'll have the number one offense throughout the rest of the year, even if they don't play average the rest of the way. But I do think that the Bills will pull it out. They're favored they're giving up 2.5 points to the Dolphins, and I think they're going to find a way to win at home. I don't know what the weather's going to be up there, but it's probably too early in the season for it to be really cold or the weather to be a factor. But generally when the weather's a factor, the Bills usually win because they're used to it. But I do think the Bills are going to win that game. I think the Vikings will win against the Panthers because I agree with you. They're the better team. I think Bryce Young, maybe he comes back. He's definitely a rookie and is showing, and he's got a lot to learn. Whether he can be an elite quarterback one of these days remains to be seen. He really is not played anywhere near as well as C.J. Stroud, who was a second pick for the Texans. Stroud looks really good. I'm impressed with him. But we'll see what happens. But I do think the Vikings are going to win that game on the road. The Ravens and the Browns, I hate picking the Browns. I don't like the Browns. I don't like their organization. I don't like the way they've managed their team over the years. I don't like the fact they gave Deshaun Watson a $230 million guaranteed contract. But the Ravens have so many injuries, and I think if they were all healthy, they would probably beat the Browns and maybe reasonably easily. But tomorrow, on Sunday, I think it's going to be the Browns over the Ravens and cover the point spread. We talked about the Broncos and the Bears. I think this is a must-win for the Broncos. And if they don't win, I don't know what's going to happen. I think that we'll see. I think if Russell Wilson played really poor and they lost, maybe he gets benched. We'll have to wait and see. But I do think the Bears are not going to win this game, and the Broncos will find a way to pull it out. Steelers against the Texans. C.J. Stroud looks really good. I think he's arrived much sooner than people would have thought. He's playing like he's a seasoned veteran almost, and I think he's the real deal. But he's going up against T.J. Watt and the Steelers defense, and the Steelers are looking better, and Kenny Pickett looked pretty good this past week. He's got a nice receiver core with Pickens, and I think they're going to find a way to win that game on the road and cover the point spread. The Colts and the Rams, I agree with you. I think the Rams are strong, maybe a stronger team, but the Colts seem to have something. They've got some special sauce or something. They have an aura around them. They have a vibe, a feel, and unfortunately, their young rookie quarterback is hurt, but they're bringing in Mishu, and he played well last week, and they won the game.
I will give you an update on that. I think I saw Anthony Richardson's expected to play.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that will be interesting if he gets in there. So I'm picking the Colts to win. I think at home, the way they played so far this year, the vibe that they have, and with their new coach, I think they got a chance. So I think they're going to pull this game out. The Tampa Bay against the Saints. The Saints are at home. Jameis Winston getting the start, getting a chance to prove what he can do. He does have a lot of talent. He's had problems making the right decisions and throwing too many interceptions in the past. But I think the Saints are going to find a way to win this game and cover. I think the Tampa Bay had started the season out really well. They lost to as you said, one of the best teams in the NFL and the Eagles last week. Baker Mayfield kind of looked like he came back to earth a little bit in that game, right? He threw an interception. He had some issues. Their offense didn't really get going. They had no rhythm. They weren't clicking. I don't know. I think the Saints have a good defense, and I think they're going to give that offense some trouble. And I'm not sure Baker Mayfield's going to play all that well. We'll see. The Eagles and the Commanders, prohibitive favorites. The Eagles here, one of the best teams in the NFL, playing against one of the poorer teams. I think they'll easily cover with the 8-point spread and beat the Commanders handily. The Bengals against the Titans. The Bengals won their first game last week, even with Joe Burrow playing on one wheel. I do think he's got a problem there, and I think you could see it in his face that he knew he wasn't 100%. The offensive line did a good job protecting him, and they threw the passes quickly. He didn't score a ton of points, but it was manageable for him, and I think he'll be a little stronger this week going up against the Titans, who are disappointing, I must say. I think with Derrick Henry, their offensive line, a decent defense. The problem is their quarterback, Tannehill. He's only in one game where he played well. Last week they only scored 3 points, so I think the Bengals will find a way to win that game on the road. The Chargers and the Raiders, I think the Chargers will win this game. I don't think they're going to cover, even though Jimmy G's not going to be in there and Brian Hoyer's going to start. I think it will be a reasonably close game. The Chargers are a little bit of a question mark. They look great on paper. They don't play so well on the field. So I do think it will be a close game, but I do think the Chargers will pull it out but not cover. Patriots and the Cowboys. The Cowboys lost last week to Arizona. I think they went into that game thinking this is going to be easy for us, a cakewalk. We're going to win this game easy. And Arizona surprised them. And Arizona is a better team than people think. And I thought they'd be horrible, but I do think that their coach, Jonathan Gannon, is a quality guy, and I think he's got that team ready to play every week. They're learning how to play better. They've led every game at the end of the first half, and they've fallen apart in a couple of games in the second half, but not against Dallas. They found a way to win. Joshua Dobbs playing reasonably well. So I think that the Cowboys will be wanting to win this game because of last game's loss, embarrassing loss. And I think they'll play hard, but I have to pick the Patriots because they're my team. So I'm not sure they're going to win. I like to think they have it's going to be very hard for them to win this game, and it will be a surprise to most people if they do win because they're a 7-point underdog. But I'm picking them. The San Francisco 49ers and Arizona, I just commented on Arizona, and I think they're better than people think, and I don't think San Francisco is going to cover, but I do think they'll win the game. Kansas City against the Jets. I think Kansas City are going to steamroll the Jets. I really do. I think even though the Jets have quite a good defense, I think that with Travis Kelce out there and Mahomes and being a Sunday night game, a primetime game, they're going to win that game, and I think they'll beat the Jets handily and cover the 9.5. Actually, I don't think they're going to cover, but I do think they'll win. The Seahawks against the Giants. I'm picking the Seahawks, even though they're the underdog. The Giants. I think this is going to be a long year for them. Unfortunately, the defense is not as good as last year. Their offense, they brought in new weapons. They don't seem to be clicking. Saquon Barkley's on one wheel if he even plays. And Daniel Jones, who I think he's looked okay in some games, he's just had no time to throw, and he's been sacked. He's probably leading the league in the sacks he's taken, right? I
don't have the exact number in front of me.
It's right up there. It's got to be right up there. So the Seahawks are well coached. They seem to be getting into a rhythm here with their win against who'd they play last week? Was it
Seahawks?
The Seahawks,
The Lions.
The Lions. They beat the Lions. So the Lions look like a very good team. So I think the Seahawks will find a way to win the game. Those are my picks, Nate.
Well, I think it is time once again for, at least, I would say one of my favorite topics, because I enjoy basically all the topics we do. It's my Harvey Hot Hand. And I'll say again for any new viewer out there, the Harvey Hot Hand is where I pick the 5 best teams, at least in my opinion, that are going to go out and cover the point spread. I think my record is, I have it here, as of today, it's 11-3-1, and that one tie was because the Bengals-Rams had a push at 3-point spread. So it could have been 11-4. It could have been 12-3. Who knows? But I'm 11-3-1, which I think it's a better start. I have my notebook in front of me just for just for posterity. I'll give you the answer. So last season, which I did this as well, to start the year, I went 7-7. Not good.
Yeah.
I went 7-7. Oh, sorry. I went 7-8. I had a losing record to start the season. So this time it's a little bit better. I would say actually a lot better. So let's jump into my Harvey Hot Hand for week 4.
Chiefs at Jets.
So Chiefs at Jets. Now, I normally don't pick big point spreads, and normally you should never pick big point spreads, but this one just seems absolutely, a perfect home run for me at least. The Chiefs are coming off of a 31-point win over the Chicago Bears, and this offense is going to eventually click, but this season the defense is the big shocker. Chris Jones, an absolutely dominant force on that defense, and even without him for the first, game or so, that Chiefs defense still got to the quarterback. Now, we saw what the offensive line of the Lions looks like so far this season. That Chiefs defense got through that Lions offensive line. The Jets, however, are playing with a bad offensive line. They're playing with the worst quarterback in the NFL. Dalvin Cook seems actually like a pretty bad pickup. He looks slow. He looks ineffective. He looks pretty bad overall. And Breece Hall, they're still questionable about that torn ACL. Now, he says he's 100% ready to go, and so far he's played like he's 100%. But I don't know. I don't really trust that, especially against the Chiefs defense. I'm saying that's a no-go. Chiefs win 35-14 and cover the 8.5-point spread.
Broncos at Bears.
This game is a must-win for if I could bring it up. We have technical difficulties. Oh, we crashed. Are we good? Are we still live? It looks like we're still live, but we have technical difficulties. So I'm going to take it away. We're just going to do this one. So
Broncos at Bears.
-3 on the point spread here. This is a must-win game for the Denver Broncos. Sean Payton and Russell Wilson, their relationship is reportedly mending, but it's also not 100% good to go like they're old pals and buddies, and it's shown. Sean Payton taking, I would say, unlawful shots at Russell Wilson, and definitely, an uncalled for shot on Nathaniel Hackett. He's actually done a worse job than Nathaniel Hackett, and hasn't even really been close. Russell Wilson has improved slightly, especially in the first half. He has looked like a better quarterback. However, this is a must-win, and the Broncos need to play like a desperate team. The Bears are absolutely horrible, so I think the Broncos will win, cover the -3 point spread. The Broncos win 31-24.
Buccaneers at Saints.
Buccaneers at Saints here. This one, to me, I'm shocked. Jameis Winston, he didn't score a single point in last week when he came in for an injured Derek Carr against the Packers. We just saw what the Packers looked like against the Lions. And guess what? Jameis Winston couldn't score a single point on the defense that Jared Goff absolutely tore up. So I think against the Buccaneers defense, which has a little bit of an injury concern, however, they're getting a couple pieces back that were on the injury report. I think Baker Mayfield rebounds off of playing one of the best teams in the NFL against the Eagles. He rebounds slightly against a Saints team I don't know if they're all that good, especially with Jameis Winston at quarterback. He's known for his turnovers. I say he throws a couple of interceptions, and I say they win. The Buccaneers win 20-17, cover the +3 point spread. Let's go to the next one.
Rams at Colts.
Rams, a +1.5 underdog against the Indianapolis Colts. I think the Rams are a better team. They have the better coach. I think they have the better quarterback. And overall, I just think this Rams team is better. I think they're going to try to run the ball, set up a play action, try to get it to, Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell. well. Try to get that going. They just signed Tyler Higbee to a 3-year extension, upwards of $10 million a year with incentives. So I think they're going to get him going as well. I think this Rams team is a better team offensively. I think they're going to be better. We saw what the Rams did against the 49ers a couple weeks ago. They kept it close. Now, unfortunately, they couldn't get the same thing going against the Bengals, but it could be the Bengals defense is starting to get going. However, they were this close. Sean McVay was this close to beating Kyle Shanahan in week 2. So I will take the Rams to cover the point spread in an upset on the road and beat the Colts 27-24. And the last one of the Harvey hot hands for this week.
Seahawks at Giants.
Seahawks -1 road favorites at Giants on Monday Night Football. Daniel Jones hasn't looked all that great. The weapons that we were told are going to be dominant and going to help Daniel Jones out so much hasn't turned out to be the case. Darren Waller, the reports were in the offseason, how he literally needed to get benched in practice because Daniel Jones loved targeting him and he was cooking the defense. Well, they got something right in the practice. The defense hasn't been the same and it's looked pretty bad. However, the wrong side of that is Darren Waller ain't really all that great for Daniel Jones. Could it be the offensive line is abysmal? Maybe. Could it be a combination of the fact that Daniel Jones isn't all that great, like a lot of people, I think, with looking at Daniel Jones and what he brings to the table, he isn't that great, plus the offensive line isn't all that great. Could be a combination of the two, and I think it's more so the combination of those two. And Saquon is questionable with an injury that he dealt with last week, so I would say the Seahawks take over with Geno Smith being as accurate and meticulous as he is with the football, throwing it to receivers like Tyler Lockett, like DK Metcalf, like JSN. They got Bobby Wagner on the defense with Tariq Woolen as a cornerback. You also got Devin Witherspoon. I say that this Seahawks team I would say they have a pretty sizable victory here and win in Monday Night Football 28-20, and that wraps up what, technical difficulties kind of screw me over. However, that is week 4's episode of the Harvey Hot End. So, a lot of great picks and a couple things. I meant to say this. What's it called? Was some of the Red Sox, I think. I had some sort of update for you.
I don't want to talk about them.
Well, they're on right now, and based on the fact I got a notification 45 minutes ago about a game start, it's probably nothing right now. Nobody has scored 45 minutes, so we're talking about what? The 4th inning, I want to say.
Maybe.
I'll bring it up right now for us, but yeah, so far so good when it comes to the Red Sox. Let's see. Nothing, middle of the 4th. Ooh, I nailed that.
Who are they playing?
The Orioles. This is game 160.
Yeah.
So we're literally in the home. We're basically done with the season.
They're going to have a losing record this year.
Well, they've lost their last 5, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. They gave up. They've given up.
I would too. Alex Cora said he'll be back, but the question is, will he be back as the manager of the Red Sox?
Yeah.
I don't know. So here's
is it his choice whether he wants to come back or not? He could say, I'm going to be back, and they could say, no, you're not. You're fired.
Well, here's the thing I wanted to tell you that obviously I don't think it'll change any of our picks. J.C. Jackson will be activated for this week. He was a healthy scratch last week. Brandon Staley's putting him out there for this week against the Raiders. So I just wanted to make that quick comment. But yeah, that wraps it up. So Tuesday is a big show. Hopefully, the weather won't make us have technical difficulties and have things a bit screwed over because we're still having a light rain. It's going to be throughout the night, which is unfortunate. So if the stream lagged or anything like that, it was due to the weather, unfortunately. However, so Tuesday, big show. We got top 10 quarterbacks. We got Nate's Notches. We got a recap of a bunch of Sunday's games. The tire fire, depending on the outcome. We may be talking about the tire fire that is the Denver Broncos versus the Chicago Bears. I think there's a lot of storylines this week that can come out. Colorado plays, I think, Saturday against USC. That's going to be a great game, I think.
I don't know. We'll see. I hope so.
Hey, Deion Sanders, He's doing great things.
See how they bounce, if they can bounce back from being beaten badly last week.
Yeah, we're gonna have to wait and see. We might be able to talk about that as well. But for this episode of the Harvey Hour, that will be it. My name's Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We are the Harvey Hour. Catch us Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.